What's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, we are now at the 9-week out mark from the 2025 Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio. And we're starting to see the updates really pour in from a lot of the top guys that are doing that show, starting with William Bonac, who we just got a recent physique update from. And Bonac is a notable guy in this lineup because he is one of the returning Arnold Classic champions. Bonac, Brandon Curry, Samson Dauda have all won the Arnold Classic title, and then in addition to that, Samson, Brandon, Derek, and Sean Clarita all have their own Olympia titles. So you've got 3 former Arnold Classic champs and 4 former and 1 current Mr. Olympia champ. And it's worth mentioning that William Bonac actually did pretty well at the Olympia this year, placing top 10, 7th place, one of the better Olympia placers of the guys that are in this lineup. I mean, you've got Brandon Curry in this lineup, a former Mr. Olympia champion, and he was 2 placings behind Bonac. So Bonac is certainly in the conversation for one of the top spots here. Akeem Williams also in this lineup. Bonac was 3 placings ahead of him at the Olympia. Andrew Jacked, Bonac was only 2 placings behind him. John De La Rosa, another guy, Bonac was 5 placings ahead of him at the Olympia. Then guys like James Hollingshead, Carlos Thomas Jr., Patrick Moore in this lineup, Justin Rodriguez. Even though they didn't compete at the Olympia, these are guys that Bonac has routinely beaten, and some of them he hasn't faced. So when you really look at the totality of the Arnold Classic lineup this year, and you're thinking about top 3, top 4, Bonac actually has a really good shot of being in that conversation. I'm assuming most people probably have Samson as the favorite, Derek Lunsford probably as the number 2 spot, Andrew Jacked probably within the top 3. Then when you consider how Bonac has stood against all these other guys, he's actually a really strong candidate for a top 4 placing, even though he really hasn't been as talked about as some of these other names that are competing here. And you could have, a wild card surprise like Carlos Thomas Jr. or Sean Clarita sneak up into that top 3, top 4. And Bonac looks admittedly pretty dialed in, pretty on track in this update. He said he's now 6 weeks into his prep for the Arnold. He's working with Boss of Outlaw. I think he's got a really good chance at doing pretty well here and placing in the money at the Arnold. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Where do you think Bonac's going to place at this year's Arnold Classic Ohio? Now, next up in the news, another 9-week out from the Arnold physique update from your reigning, defending Mr. Olympia champ, Samson Dauda. And I don't know if I say this enough, but I want to say it again. One of the things that I like so much about Samson is the frequency at which he posts. Weekly, if not daily, physique updates when he's prepping for a show. And they're not just like a picture here and there. They're like full posing videos every time, step by step of the process updates. And I think as bodybuilding fans, a lot of us really appreciate that, especially when it comes from your reigning Mr. Olympia champ. And in my opinion, Samson is the guy in this lineup that has the target on his back, in the sense of all these guys are gunning for Samson. He's your current Mr. Olympia. Derek's in this lineup. Derek lost his Olympia title to Samson. He is the guy to beat. Now, the thing that set this update apart from the other updates that we've gotten recently of Samson is in this one, he's showing his legs, his lower body from the side and the back profiles, which is something he didn't do in several of those updates. And you can already see, those hamstrings are getting carved out, a lot of definition in the back. You can just really see the detail coming in. And again, in full context, this is a guy that's 320-something pounds. Maybe he's less than that now because we're getting closer to the show. But with still 9 weeks to go, it's pretty impressive. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. As you watch this update of Samson Dauda, do you think anybody is going to be able to beat him at the Arnold? And if so, who? And how or why do you think they're going to beat him? To me, he looks pretty on track for 9 weeks out. And I feel like the only way someone is going to come in here and knock out the reigning Olympia champ is if he comes in really off. Like they really got to blow him out of the water to beat him, because he's the standard. He's Mr. Olympia. So really the only way that I could see him getting beaten is either someone like Derek comes in here looking otherworldly, like better than he's ever looked before, or Samson comes in looking like way far off from his Olympia look. Because if Samson brings a look comparable to the Olympia, or potentially even better, logic would suggest he's not going to get beaten at a show outside of the Olympia if he brings that Olympia caliber package. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Now, next up in the news, another reigning defending champion, Wesley Vissers, is still your 2024 Arnold Classic back-to-back UK and US Arnold Classic champion. Despite his placing at the Olympia, he posted a front profile and back profile, front double bicep, back double bicep, where he looks absolutely full as a house. I think a lot of times when we look at Wesley's updates, the thing that impresses at least me the most is not only his structure, but just he's always like really detailed. When he has crazy physique updates, it's usually the detail that jumps out to me when we're talking about his updates. But in this one, it just stood out to me that he's incredibly full here. And the thing with Wesley is that he brought such crazy detail, really good condition when he won the Arnold Classic. But structurally, that detail is what carried him to that victory. Because structurally, I think his weak point, especially against Mike Sommerfeld, who I think is going to be his main competition here at this Arnold, is his lower body. Just structurally, it's just size-wise, it doesn't stack up, especially from the back and side profiles. But when he's in that incredible detailed condition, he's able to overcome that a little bit because he's just so separated. And I think you notice that in a lot of the updates that we see from Wesley, including this one, is that he doesn't often show the lower body unless he's like really close to the show, like same week or on stage or just getting off stage. And I think that's why, like mentally, when we see these updates of Wesley that are just his upper body, yeah, his upper body is just incredible. Wide, just crazy. But it's the lower body that doesn't quite match, that kind of throws him off. But when he brings that crazy conditioning, like I said, he overcomes a little bit, but that's kind of the structural fault with Wesley. Certainly one of the best upper bodies, of all time, really. But he's just so wide and impressive up top that I feel like that's what really actually even maybe makes the lower body more noticeable, the imbalance. But like I've said several times before, anything could happen. I mean, even though Mike Sommerfeld was second at the Olympia, I mean, that was the big upset with Wesley. When he won the Arnold, he just beat Ramon, who was second at the Olympia. So anything can happen, even if there's structural differences, even if someone has a better lower body, they might come in off. Who knows? I'm not counting Wesley out of this thing just yet. And all those crazy guys that Wesley beat last year are not even going to be in the Arnold this year. So that's something, I guess, working to his advantage, you could say. I think his main competition here is Mike Sommerfeld and Michael DeBull. And I believe we did just get a picture. Yeah, we did. We got an update from Mike today, 19 hours ago, that showcases exactly what I just talked about. The proportionality of the lower body to the upper body. Mike has a similar crazy taper. Wesley has a good taper. Mike has an even better taper because his waist is a little bit smaller. But crazy up top, full, almost looks 212-esque as far as like the muscle mass that Mike carries. But his legs are big and separated too. They're more proportional to his upper body, and that's like the thing that Wesley doesn't quite have. But again, Wesley didn't have that when he won the Arnold, so maybe he could win it again. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Wesley or Mike for the Arnold Classic title? Who do you think is going to come out on top? Or maybe Michael DeBull or somebody else. Now, next up in the news, I saw this clip of Steve Weinberger on Beyond the Stage TV. And Steve Weinberger obviously is a head IFBB judge. He's been around forever, a very respected member of the IFBB community. And I wanted to include this because this has still kind of continued to be a hot button and controversial topic in the IFBB, and that is the new division that's coming out in 2025, the Fit Model division. It's going to be a women's division. It's going to be a tier below bikini with the goal of being a more entry-level class to attract a wider demographic of people to competing in the NPC and the IFBB. Now, they did say it will be amateur only for 2025, but in 2026, it will be a professional category. So it will be both the IFBB and NPC, but in the immediate future, for the immediate year, it'll just be NPC. I saw some people that were confused about that and thought it was just going to be amateur only. It will, according to Tyler, eventually also be a pro category, which would mean they would be eligible for the Olympia. There'll be an Olympia Fit Model category. And I do want to defend one thing about this. I know, like I said, people are torn on this. It's kind of a very controversial division. But one of the criticisms that I keep seeing, Tyler actually did address in his initial video announcing the new division. And that was people saying, well, if this is like an easier, lower standard of judging, it's easier to turn pro, then people were worried about, because we see this in the other categories. If you turn pro in Fit Model, it's like an easy pro card, and then you could just jump to figure or bikini or one of the other divisions and compete as a pro in those divisions. But Tyler already said in his video they're not going to be able to switch. They have to stay in Fit Model once they turn pro. So he kind of already addressed that. But it would be interesting to know in the future how that's going to be handled, because if this is going to be serving as like a stepping stone division with the intent of getting girls to compete at a lower level of entry, you would have to assume that a lot of those girls that start competing will eventually want to compete in maybe bikini or wellness or figure. So what will the process for them be? Are they going to have to go back and compete as an amateur in that category if they want a pro card in a different category? Because if the Fit Model is so entry level, as these girls continue to train and build their physiques better, you would think a lot of them would eventually want to switch. So I do think that'll be something that'll have to be addressed more in the future, but we're still so far away from that. But anyway, the clip that I saw of Steve Weinberger, I actually disagreed with. He was defending Tyler Mannion in the decision that he made, which I agree with that part. I don't think Tyler is not a smart guy. I think he's made a lot of really good decisions since he's been in a leadership position in the IFBB. Do I think this was the best one? Only time will tell. I don't really like the idea of the division, but we'll see. But I do agree with Steve that Tyler is a smart guy. I feel like he has been pretty responsible, at least in part, for this push recently of upping the prize money across the board in the IFBB. That was a really good thing that he was a big part of. Another thing that comes to mind is the video recaps that he does, explaining the judging at the shows and why it was judged the way it was, and the breakdowns that he gives, like in real time, are something we never had. Directly from the judge to the fan, why we judged it this way. That's another really good decision that I think he made. And I also don't question his leadership ability, because I think he is what we need. I saw people being critical because he's a young guy. The demographic that he's serving, he's much closer in age and probably the same age as most competitors and most fans. I'd say a good chunk of the bodybuilding fan base and competitor base is in that like 20 to 35 age range. I believe Tyler is 30. So I think it's good that he's in a position of leadership there, and I think he's been making good decisions. Time will tell if this decision is one of them, and I feel like he's a little bit more relatable and understands better than someone that's significantly older than everybody competing and everybody that's a fan. So I think he's got his finger on the pulse pretty good. But one of the things that Steve said in this video that I disagreed with is it was kind of a rant about you shouldn't be questioning this. You shouldn't be angry about this. You shouldn't be negative about this new division.
Honestly, the negative people really should just shut their mouths and give it a chance. You know what I mean? There's a lot. I mean, you can be negative on anything. There's a lot of negative people out there, and those are the people who usually get angry with their career and the way their career went. You know what I mean? So they have a bit of a chip on their shoulder. There's a lot of people like that. Not everyone, but there are a lot of people like that. This division is an excellent division, in my opinion. Tyler is a smart guy. He's got Jim, who is the ultimate smart guy behind him. Nothing is done without being very well thought out in the IFBB and the NPC. They just don't take an idea and say, you know what? We're going to start this division, and we'll see how it goes. This division, as we just said before, is a need, in my opinion, because there are so many athletes. And if you go to a lot of these shows, there are a lot of women that don't want to look like a bikini athlete.
And he says he thinks, I believe this was directed at competitors that have been vocal, like current competitors now that have been vocal about this new division. He says they're just unhappy with how their careers went. I don't agree with that. I think when a big decision like this is made for a new division to be added to the sport that all of us enjoy, of course people are going to have differing opinions on it. Of course people are going to discuss it. Of course there's going to be people that don't like it. So I don't like the idea of, if you don't like it, just shut up. If you don't like it, don't say anything. Because I think a lot of the stuff that I've seen about this new division, even if it was negative, there were some very valid points of criticism in a lot of what I saw that could probably be helpful and constructive to Tyler as they go through the process of establishing this division. I've seen a lot of really good concerns and really good criticism that they could address as they grow this division. So I don't agree with being negative is not good. People have made some really valid points that can help them, and I think Tyler, having his finger on the pulse with social media the way that he seems to, I think that's something he could really use and not just reject anybody saying anything negative. Actually look through it. I think there are some good points about this division, both positive and negative. So I don't like the idea that when the IFBB makes a decision, either agree with it or don't say anything. That kind of goes against everything I even do here. And like I've said before, my main concerns with this new division are, A, I think there's already too big of an imbalance between women and men's as far as categories. 7 women, 4 men's. That's one. I don't think there was a necessity for a new division. The other one is the length of the shows, particularly the bigger shows like the Olympia, and not only the effect that has on the viewability of the event. The fans don't really like the length of these events, and the competitors that are there competing in that show don't like the length of time that they're waiting around before they get to step on stage. It's a grueling process. And I've said before, I think that's the main reason why it's unlikely that we'll see bodybuilding on something mainstream like ESPN, because the shows are too long. A 7-hour show would have to be so compressed and condensed to ever be on a mainstream time block that if the goal was to make bodybuilding more mainstream, it seems counterintuitive, then why even have those divisions that they're definitely not going to air on TV? But that doesn't mean that there's not a chance that this division could be successful, and if they implement it the right way, it might not be a bad thing depending on if they take this feedback or not. Because like I said, I think the fans know what they want better than anybody else. And I think I've seen a lot of really good points from the fans about this division, both positive and negative. Now, the final story that I've got for you guys today, we got a bunch of current updates from Michael Krizo, who, as you guys know, missed a pretty big chunk of 2024 because he had surgery for a shoulder injury. And we got basically the update that he thinks he's going to be good to compete in 2025. Then he shows off some recent physique updates where his shoulder is looking a lot better. And just that whole arm in general is looking a lot better, with the goal apparently of competing again in 2025. And I know that Krizo isn't a guy that we've talked a lot about recently because, like I said, he's missed such a big chunk of the year. But he's definitely a freak, and he's a guy that I'm excited to see back to competing. He's an exciting guy to watch. He's a big dude. And I'm just glad to see that he is seemingly making a pretty speedy recovery here. So that's going to wrap it up for the video, guys. I hope you guys have had a great holiday week so far. New Year's is rapidly approaching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at NickStrengthPower. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.